Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are starting another new series. This one is about who wins in a fight. We are going to be pitting different Nintendo characters against each other and seeing how they match up. This series isn't necessarily talking about who has the highest power level or who's straight up the strongest, but more so about the actual circumstance of them being in a battle and who would win in most cases. So for example, Donkey Kong is probably a lot stronger than Star Fox, but Donkey Kong might never even get a chance to hit Star Fox if Fox is in his R-Wing or Landmaster, or just using his blaster, shooting him repeatedly before Donkey Kong even gets a chance to get there. So while Donkey Kong is stronger, he wouldn't necessarily win in that particular matchup. But for this first episode, we are talking about arguably the two most iconic important characters from Nintendo. Mario from the Super Mario series, and Link from the Legend of Zelda series. And we're going to be using the version of Mario from his most modern iterations as well as Link. So in the case of Mario, this would mean Mario from Super Mario Odyssey, and I guess we could also include Mario from Bowser's Fury. Not 3D World, because that's a game that came out in the prior generation Nintendo Wii U, but Bowser's Fury is a little bit of an expansion that I think we could also include in this discussion. And then for Link, it would be from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. How do these particular modern versions of Mario and Link match up in a fight? Who would win? Well, that's what we're talking about today. But before we go forward, I would like to ask if you do enjoy my videos to please subscribe, and if you would like to see more of my content that I upload on a near daily basis, consider hitting that notification bell. But now it's getting into breaking down these different characters and their abilities. So focusing on Mario first and what he can do in Super Mario Odyssey, he's clearly a parkour master. Mario can somersault, do backflips, jump, swing, everything you would expect he can do, and arguably better than any we've seen in history. Mario is a nimble guy, for sure. But being nimble won't necessarily help you win a fight if you can't land a hit. But this is where things get a little bit interesting, because Mario actually has some extraordinary physical abilities here that go beyond just his acrobatic movements. So first off, Mario can jump several times his height, which is very obviously superhuman, but it goes beyond that. Because Mario can jump off from what appears to be nearly limitless heights, reach terminal velocity, and land on his feet without taking any damage. He might take a moment to absorb the shock, but he's totally healthy afterwards. I really wish I had Mario's knees. Maybe I could have gone into the NBA. So basically what I'm getting at here is that Mario has the most incredible legs that I've ever seen. But it seems to only apply to jumping. He's not the most fast character, he's not someone like Flash. So while his legs give him the greatest jumping ability and the greatest ability to land, it doesn't seem to apply to having incredible kicking powers or moving around extremely quick, where he's approaching light speeds or anything of the sort. But something else that Mario has in his repertoire is Cappy. In Mario Odyssey, Mario can throw Cappy, who's now his hat throughout the game, and possess almost any character in the world if they aren't wearing any sort of helmet or hat. If they are, he has to knock that off first. But once he possesses them, it's basically GG. They've been defeated because he can do whatever he wants with their body. He could even jump off a cliff, vault off of them, and land back onto a safe space while they just fall down to an endless chasm. So just based off Mario's moveset from Odyssey, he's pretty darn capable. However, if we account for some of the abilities you see in Bowser's Fury, like being able to use the boomerang power-ups and the fireball power-ups, that gives him some extra projectiles as well, and he even has the help of Bowser Jr. Now I think it's a fair question to ask if it's even fair to consider Bowser Jr. Well then, is it also fair to consider Cappy in Mario Odyssey? I would argue it's simply a part of his moveset. And I don't think it makes the matchup unfair because Link has some similar advantages as well. So let's talk about Link. In Breath of the Wild, Link has the different champion abilities. He has Daruk's Protection, which gives him an extra several layers of shield. He has Mipha's Grace, so when he is taken out, he is fully revived with more hearts. And then with Urbosa's Fury and Rivali's Gale, he has offensive options and better movement options. And then of course we could also account for the abilities in Tears of the Kingdom, where the sages do offer him different abilities to move around and attack, but also the sages fight literally alongside him. He could have 5 other combatants fighting next to him for a full party of 6. So if Mario brings in help, Link would also have a decent amount of help too. But let's just focus on Link's own unique abilities. This iteration of Link arguably has the strongest upper body strength we've seen in the entire series. Actually, I'm not even sure it's arguable, it's pretty much indisputable in my opinion. Link can climb almost any surface in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom by just gripping the surfaces with his hand. The surface can be nearly perfectly flat, but his grip strength is so great that he can find a way to create a hold even on seemingly flat surfaces. Now there are some exceptions when he's in a shrine, but something like a tree or a rock wall, it's cake for him. And he can hang like this forever, or fly for very long durations holding on a paraglider for an extremely long time. So basically Link has superhuman upper body strength. His lower body, on the other hand, isn't bad. He can move around, he can jump, he can do bat flips. He's pretty good. So good, in fact, that when he does dodge opponents, he can enter a flurry rush mode where time slows down and he can deal several blows before the enemy can respond. And if the timing's right, he can also parry away even extremely large enemies like Lionel by deflecting their attacks with his shield. It should also be said that Link has incredible abilities with the bow. When he's in the air, he can go into a slow time where things essentially slow down dramatically and he can focus on aiming his bow however he chooses and shooting several shots. Link is a master archer and just a master at using weapons in general, given that he is a royal knight that's been training for years and is trusted to be the protector of the princess, and is also considered to be the legendary hero, who wields the Master Sword, which is not only considered to be the ultimate sword, but when at full health it does shoot out beam projectiles. But there's one other skill that Link has that I would be remiss if I did not mention this, and that's his ability to eat. He can eat anything, including rocks, as we see in Age of Calamity. Now, how is this a useful skill in a fight with Mario? Well, let's get into it. So if Link and Mario were to get into a fight, I think Link would have a lot of obvious advantages. He uses weapons like a sword, lance, spears, things of that nature, so he has range, especially with his bow. Mario would either A, have to rely on his Fire Flower power-up to shoot some fireballs, or go in for a jump and land on his head, which is typically his go-to move. But considering Link's ability to parry away projectiles like fireballs, or just endure them with a shield, or even play tennis with his sword, I don't think fireballs would be the right way to go against Link. So Mario would ultimately have to rely on jumping on Link. And this is where things get dangerous, because as I discussed earlier, while Mario may not have the most incredible kicking abilities, or be able to move around with extreme levels of speed, when it comes to jumping and landing, Mario's legs appear to exceed all others. So Mario could deal some significant heavy blows on Link if you were to land on his head. And while I would say both Mario and Link are fairly durable, they can take several hits that would be mortal wounds to normal people, Mario can repeatedly land on Link's head. When Mario does his little jump stop thing, he can continue to do it. It doesn't have to be just one single time. So theoretically, with Mario's incredible jumping abilities, he could jump over any attack Link would throw at him, and then land on his head and just continue to bump his head until Link is dead, or just out of commission. However, I do think Link would be able to respond. He would be able to see the jump coming. It's not like the jump is extremely quick, and most enemies that Mario lands on in his games are fairly slow moving. Link, on the other hand, has experience jumping and evading around some fairly quick enemies, so he could sidestep or backflip away. Not to mention he would likely see his shadow, or because both games take place in third person, there is this implied awareness that they both have of things that are around them within a certain space, so he would see it coming. So while Mario may be able to land a few bonks, I don't think that he would be able to bonk Link so many times in a single row that Link would not be able to respond. And if this fight ends up in a close quarters battle, I would say Link would have the advantage, one, because of his upper body strength grappling around, but also, two, going back to how he has the ability to eat rocks, he probably has some extraordinary biting strength beyond that of any normal person, and Mario would be in some serious trouble there as well. Of course, maybe Mario can pull in some help from maybe, say, Bowser Jr. But if we're going to talk about Bowser Jr., then Link can bring in the sages, and there's 5 of them, and so that would just be an unfair advantage in Link's favor. Unless Mario takes advantage of his other partner, and that's Cappy. If Mario can possess Link, then that's essentially game. Now, something to note here is that in Mario Odyssey, if an enemy is wearing a cap of some kind, something covering their head, that needs to be knocked off first. Now, you can make the argument that Link might be wearing something else where there is some kind of cap. Sure, but the default design for both Links doesn't have that, so then Cappy would work immediately, and Mario would win. However, if we're talking about Breath of the Wild Link, he does have Daruk's protection. And so I think that would give Link some legroom there. But if we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom Link, where he can employ the help of Rauru and use the abilities in that game, he does have the option to use Recall. And so with Recall, anytime any enemy sends an object towards Link, any kind of projectile, he can literally stop time, use Recall, and reverse the time of that specific object back at the enemy. So if Mario starts to use Cappy, even in close quarters, Link can instantly use Recall to combat that. So based off everything I've gone over here, I think in most cases, Link would win in a fight against Mario. However, there is one other thing I think is worth mentioning here. Mario does have a power-up in Bowser's Fury that's pretty insane. If he gains access to the Giga Bell, he becomes a giant-sized lion cat monster Mario that can compete against Fury Bowser, this giant, enormous beast. So with this power-up, Mario, I would say, probably has the advantage against Link, even though Link is capable of fighting giant beasts as he does in his games. I would be leaning in Mario's direction if he had the Giga Bell. However, the Giga Bell is very circumstantial. It only exists in Bowser's Fury on Lake Lapcat when you collect the shines, and it's only summoned in an effort to combat against Fury Bowser. In other words, suggesting that the Giga Bell only exists when there's a Fury Bowser. So I would say under most circumstances, if there was ever some sort of weird universe where Link and Mario would meet each other and have a fight using their abilities from their modern games, Mario wouldn't have the Giga Bell to use. And so, in most cases, I think Link would win in a fight. But that's my take. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.